As the crime wave continues in New York City, new statistics compiled by the NYPD reveal that the city's 10 alleged worst offenders racked up nearly 500 arrests after New York's bail reform law went into effect in 2020.
Yeah, many of them are still out on the streets. Mayor Adams and NYPD officials took to the podium yesterday to say our current criminal justice system isn't working.
Our criminal justice system is insane. It is dangerous, it is harmful, and it's destroying the fabric of our city.
Recidivism rates, they are up as courtrooms become revolving doors for repeat offenders. Law enforcement officials say some cases involve suspects wanted for serious crimes like homicide and other felonies. Joining us this morning, Paul DiGiacomo, president of the Detectives Endowment Association. Nice to have you back on Good Day New York. I'm sorry that we have to keep talking about the same thing.
Yes, it's a problem. Well, there's a direct correlation between the bail reform laws being enacted and the uptick in violent crime in New York City and New York State. That's a fact.
So why isn't Albany coming together? You had Governor Hochul who said she's not calling back these people, assembly and speakers, to come back and basically revisit bail reform. You got Carl Hastie, who's the Speaker of the Assembly, tweeting out. This is what he tweeted out in the last 24 hours. I'm scratching my head regarding the mayor's recollection of conversations we've had to date. We've received no data from the mayor or his team. I think he's talking about, repeat offenders. My most recent exchange with him was about my dismay that he claims to have data that vastly differs from what they have.
Well, he should be scratching his head on the amount of murders that are up in his district. They're up 60%. Rapes are up 43%. Robberies are up 37%. Burglaries are up 17%. That's what he should be scratching his head about. And he should open his eyes and realize that the bail reform laws that he was part of enacting are not working. How much more time do we have to go, and how many more people have to get killed before they realize that these bail reforms are dangerous for our city and state?
Well, let's talk about these bail reform laws, because there have been reports, right, that there are a small percentage of bad actors that are the ones that are re-offending. The majority of the other folks that are out are doing the right thing, per se, for lack of better wording. How do we find a middle ground?
It's very simple. No one wants to see a young man or woman, first offender, being held in jail. Nobody wants that. But there has to be a distinction between the good people that make mistakes and the people that are going to be recidivists and victimize the people of our city and our state on a regular basis.
Well, let's talk about that as well, because you mentioned the McDonald's worker when we were in the break, right? Someone who had committed multiple crimes, apparently, long, lengthy rap record.
He should have been in jail. He's had a long record, prior gun arrests, prior shootings, and this poor child is dead over nothing. Yeah,
and then you also have the bodega worker who had to defend himself.
Right.
That person also had a lengthy record. What's that middle ground? The mayor is calling on a judge to have the discretion, but then you have other folks who say when they did have the discretion, it led to racism and minorities getting lengthier sentences.
Well, that's something that has to be straightened out in the criminal justice system, but judges need discretion to keep dangerous felons and recidivists in jail. They don't have that discretion now, and these people just walk out quicker than we finish our paperwork. So there are some days in the detective squads right now where you have more defendants or perpetrators in the cell in the detective squad than we do have detectives working.
Let's talk about detectives working, because you have a problem with manpower right now. What's going on there?
Well, we're very low on manpower. In 2001, we had 7,300 detectives. Right now, we're down to about 5,300. And there are a lot more investigative steps we have to take now than we did before.
What's the problem? Why are people demoralized? They don't want to be, stay in the force? What's going on?
Well, because of the laws that have been enacted up in Albany and here in the City Council with the diaphragm compression bill and the vaccine mandate, people are leaving in droves, and it's not in the best interest of the people of the city.
Let's talk about crime. Why are we seeing such an uptick? Is it because of inflation? Because people are really feeling the pinch? They don't have money? What is the problem?
It's because the criminals feel emboldened because of the laws that have been enacted and a lack of support for the police on a city, state, and federal level.
Yeah. What do you say to people who are living in these communities, right? Because I'm from one, where the crime is just perpetual. It's happening all the time. They don't care about woo the mayor's argument. They don't care about what's going on in Albany. They just want it to stop.
Well, you need to, do away with some of these laws that were enacted. The city council enacted a law that makes it virtually impossible for a police officer or a detective to lock up a non-compliant prisoner. That's the diaphragm compression bill, where when you're fighting with an individual that's resisting arrest, you can't put any pressure from the bottom of the neck to the top of the waist, front and back. That's impossible, and I challenge any city council person to try to arrest someone that's non-compliant without violating the law that they created.
The Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, a lot of people have been pointing fingers at him. Is he to blame, or do you think he's just following the rules?
Well, I think it's not just him. I think there's multiple DAs in the city of New York that are not prosecuting aggressively. And this is why I say that we need a special firearms prosecutor to just work on firearm-related crimes. Just like we did back in the late 80s and early 90s, we had a narcotics prosecutor when crack was at an epidemic level. Now guns are at an epidemic level, and we need it to be pinpoint prosecution and have some sort of coordination within a criminal justice system. We don't have that now.
We have in our area the biggest heavyweights, political heavyweights in Albany, Andrea Stewart-Cousins and Carl Hastie. If they're watching right now, what would you like to say to them about bail reform?
Fix the bail reform laws. Give judges the discretion they need to keep dangerous criminals in jail or recidivists in jail.
And you said that Carl Hastie, his district, has a lot of problems right now.
We've been telling them, we knew this wasn't going to work, and we've been telling him for over 2 years. But they're not listening.
But he's not listening because he has 24-hour security?
Well, they have security, and the bottom line is this: they're not adult enough to say they made a mistake. They made a mistake. Let's fix it and move on.
Detective Paul DiGiacomo from the Detectives Endowment Association, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for answering our
Appreciate it.
questions as well.